Most racing drivers won't claim to be big fans of chicanes, so unfortunately for those that have a great aversion, today we've got an overabundance of them. Time to work on your precision as we get ready for the PCA Sim Racing Series 14 Challenge class. You'll see it all live here on RaceSpotTV. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Ron Mons. Behind the scenes is our director, Ramiro Cisneros. We're thrilled to have Princess Cruises as the 2025 PCA title sponsor. As the official cruise vacation partner of Series 14, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 17 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. Ron, it's the penultimate round. Drivers' results today is going to have a big effect going into VIR.
Yeah, a lot of tension here under the dark skies that we have seen throughout here at Zolder, running off into the fall here in the Northern Hemisphere. Have seen some cold track conditions throughout as well, but certainly the heat's going to be out there on the circuit, even if it isn't in the tires. These competitors have a lot riding on their minds as they head off into the final 2 weeks of the series.
Without a doubt, and this is the situation before they score the points tonight. Ed Trippett with the advantage, but only by 60 points. Remember, it's 350 for a win, so that's not the biggest of margins. And then it's only 40 more points down to Anthony DiVincenzo there in third. It's a bit more of a jump down to John Kaplan, so I'd say that the top three are right now our main protagonists, but obviously this could all change around. Look at how close it is, though, behind John Kaplan. You have to go down to 8th place to get 100 points behind him. So yeah, we could see a ton of switching up here in the top 10 before we are done with today. As we are in the midst of qualifying right now, Ed Trippett, our championship leader, is on provisional pole, but look out for Todd Goldberg. He finished up practice with 0.8 of a second over anybody else, but he is on his final flying lap as we watch Ed also come through, and his last lap gets deleted. He must have had an off track, while Johan Nye, it looks like, Ron, has now displaced him.
And Johan Nye, who's gone oh so close to victory lane thus far this season, hasn't broke through with a win yet. Emphasis on yet, though. I think this could be a very good shot for him to do it. Ed Trippett, meanwhile, set to join him on the front row, was able to grab his first pole position in this season at Aragon 2 weeks ago. Keeping on him in that 444 car to maybe impress here as he looks to try and extend that gap in the championship points as we head off into this round of the championship. Briefly saw the track temperature bug and got to convert that in from Celsius to Fahrenheit to satisfy my teeny tiny American pea brain. Currently at 65 Fahrenheit for the air temperature. That's 66 Fahrenheit for the track temp. That is ice cold in racing terms.
Yeah, it's a very cool track, has been in all the rounds so far. Aubrey Iyer, currently sitting in 15th, has already taken her 3 laps and is only going to be starting as high as 15th. Could see some positions change, although I look down and I'm not sure if we've got anybody else able to set a time. It doesn't look like we do. All drivers have taken their 3 available laps or have failed to set a time in their 3 laps. Except for Schussler and Ben Whitehurst are at the bottom of our 27 cars without a time on the board. This is Keith Markison, and he's doing a little bit of a practice run into pit lane, although you do not want to be going in this slow, or else you're going to be losing gobs of time. The pit entry and pit exit, definitely going to be a talking point tonight, Ron.
Oh, they certainly will. And this pit lane, too, it is so fiddly, a little bit confusing, and it's also very long in comparison to the rest of this racetrack. Have an extensive pit entry, extensive pit exit, too, as you run around the outside of turn number 1 and rejoin the racetrack on the inside of 2. Keep an eye on that pit exit. If a driver spins, we could very well see a racer, Austin Powers themselves there, just be parked perfectly, which would be a little bit funny for us to see on the broadcast, but would not be very funny for the racers themselves if they do have some sort of difficulties like that. Pit lane penalties may be a bit of a factor as we worry about those pit stops a bit later on in tonight's race.
Talked about Johan Nye. and him still looking for that first win. He's had 3 second places in a row, but he's starting on the pole, so signs are good, but we'll see if he can back that up once we get to the race itself as the last of the clock ticks down here. If you haven't been watching the other races, you heard Ron mention it, that this is going to be going into the darkness, this race. This is the first time they will be racing in the dark this season in PCA. So the drivers hopefully have the track and their brake markers, their turning points all very well memorized.
Yes, that was a very big factor 1 week ago when we were running in the other club class. Here with the challenge, though, it's going to be very challenging. We saw many a racer run into some difficulties. It wasn't drivers running into each other. More so, it was drivers just feeling the burn of what was a very sketchy track here at Zolder.
So with them switching over to the warm-up session, obviously now it is official that Johan is our pole sitter for this one. We'll go over his lap in just a moment, as well as the grid a little bit later on. But for now, the drivers get a bit of a warm-up session to try and get whatever last-minute practice they feel they might need for the race itself. And there you can see some of the chicanes that the drivers will be trying to tackle. Why don't you talk us through Johan's lap here, Ron, and let's see how to be fast around Zolder.
And to be fast here, you've got to be on the limit and a little bit nervous all throughout as we see Johan Nye head his way off through turn number 1. High curb on the outside could prove to be a big challenge point, especially at the start of this race. Lap 1, oh boy, that's going to be tough. Turn 2, another choke point as well, but you build the momentum up as you round your way through turn number 3, get up into 5th, but you once again have to dip down into 4th as you head your way off through turn number 4. Now this turn we saw 1 week ago proved to be a bit of a messy spot of the racetrack, as has this. Actually got a fantastic screenshot before we got this broadcast up and rolling from Ramiro in the production truck of a driver with all 4 up off the deck heading through that turn 5 chicane. There's no smooth way around there. There's only the least uncomfortable. Now heading all through the top end of the circuit with this slightly fiddly chicane. Even Johan Nye didn't look too comfortable through there as he nearly ran off the track on several occasions. Now this turn could be a little bit tough just because of the runoff area. You see not a lot of room to work off there, and there's also a tire barrier that chokes it off. A driver runs wide through there, maybe hits that barrier. They're going to ricochet back across the track and could very well have a track blocker on our hands. That's turn number 8 through the 9 chicane right there. But now into the final heave-ho of this lap. The turn 10 chicane to bring this lap to a close. Could be a good spot to get a move done. Got to be wary about those inside curbs though. And you saw the outside. If you missed it, oh well. If you miss it, you miss it. You got to make sure you don't blink around here. That was a pit exit on the outside of that chicane. So if you're a driver trying to come down pit lane, you got a car slamming on the brakes right in front, you may have to pull off some matrix moves.
Yeah, you need to make sure that you don't get into the back of that car ahead if you do want to try and maximize your pit entry, and maybe kind of plan around that in a way, as we'll head to that starting grid then to show you how things will begin for the last race of our Zolder event here in PCA Series 14. Johan Nye on the pole position with Ed Trippett starting next to him. Then sees Todd Goldberg. Expect him to be pushing hard here as he seems to have the one-lap pace to be quicker than anybody else. He'll have Chris Drankovic to his outside. Les Carmichael will be starting from 5th, and Thomas Doherty will start in P6. From there, John Kaplan starts in 7th, Vernon Messer in P8, and David Santry in 9th. Jonathan Sesportis will round out your top 10. Anthony DiVincenzo, he'll be P11 with Jeffrey Block next to him, completing row 6. Robert Calais, he'll be in 13th. Dave Jones starts from P14, and Aubrey Iyer in 15th. Leon Snyman, he'll be P16, followed by Keith Markison in the 17th spot, and Patrick Aguirre in the 18th spot. Then, to complete the top 20, it's James Legault and Lisa Eskridge. Adam Holland then will begin from 21st, Jack Stevenson in 22nd. Ken Eskridge will start 23rd, and Andrew Hillman in 24th, with a quarter-century mark going to Andy McCune. He'll just have Ben Whitehurst and Chris Schuessler at the end of the field, the only 2 drivers that failed to set a time in qualifying. Do they have more pace than that? That is the big question. And worth noting, in terms of them starting from the back here, Ron, last night we had a driver start from pit lane and finish 14th out of 30 plus cars. So I don't think it's impossible to try and charge from the back despite the difficulty passing here.
Yeah, I think if you just run a clean race, even if you start at the back, if you can walk away from this race with a 0x, you could probably walk away from this race with a top 15 or even a top 10 for that matter. This track is minuscule compared to some of the other ones that we've been at thus far this season, both in terms of the length and the track width. You can very much so tell that this is an old school racetrack, although it has had modifications made to put up to modern safety standards with the gravel and the grass, and also got an iRacing refresh only a couple of seasons ago. This track is still very, very narrow. It feels like an alleyway at many points in time, and with some huge curves, especially heading all through the chicanes. If you can run a clean race, keep your nose to the grindstone, and stay out of other people's trouble, you can probably come out of this penultimate round of the season with a fantastic result.
That has been a theme, is staying out of trouble, but the other part of that theme is that it's easier said than done, unfortunately. So drivers are going to be trying their best, but sometimes you just wind up caught up in other people's issues. We've seen that multiple times where drivers were kind of innocently collected in a couple situations as they've all got themselves lined up and are ready to go. So we should be taking off on this half pace lap pretty shortly here. To start things off. Johan Nye, so desperately wanting that first win of the season. Can he manage to finally claim it, or is Trippett going to deny him once again and take his third win of Series 14? That's the big question mark for that front row.
You know, honestly, Joe, I look at the front row and neither of them are really screaming out to me in terms of the ones that I want to look at for. I'm looking right behind P3, Todd Goldberg. He's got 2 wins up to this point in the season, those coming in the even rounds. Round number 2, Watkins Glen. Round number 4 at Laguna Seca. Even said after the Laguna Seca race that he was eyeballing this one as being his next spot to really try and bring the thunder. So keep an eye on that number 99 car starting this race in the 3rd starting spot to maybe impress and potentially grab another W here tonight.
And worth noting, those 2 wins are the only 2 races he's shown up for. So yeah, he's got 100% strike rate. I think it's a fair bet that he is going to be a big force here today. And like I pointed out, 1 lap pace is there as we watch that beautiful sunset here in the Belgian countryside. Soon the drivers will not be focusing on the beauty surrounding them, but rather the track in front, trying to hit all those marks as perfectly as possible. Safety car is in. Johan has control, but he cannot go until he gets the signal from the flag stand to accelerate. And he has to wait, but he definitely has quite a bit ahead of Trippett there. And now that the green flag is out, that's working well to his favor as Ed is falling backwards. Todd Goldberg gets a good jump. He's looking at 2nd place almost immediately as they fly down into Erst, and he will take that P2 away.
And thundering their way through the 1st sector, Goldberg thundering his way up into P2. That's a dream start for him. Trippett kind of caught napping at the lights. He's going to have to play defense as we negotiate the rest of this 1st sector of the lap. Looking at side-by-side, battling right behind, though, with Chris Stankovic and Les Carmichael. That's a battle for the final 2 spots inside the top 5, and I think it has cooled off. It looks like maybe Carmichael and Doherty will be the ones battling now.
That's that side-by-side action we see coming down into the Kleine chicane. That's tough to make work, and you can see how clumsy it is for Doherty as he pops over that inside curb. Carmichael will take P5.
The move down into turn number 5 is usually going to end in disaster. If he ran on some of the smallest cars on iRacing, a Formula V can't go side by side through there, let alone a Porsche Cup car. So these racers even having the sense to say, let's go side by side into the braking zone and let's dive out of it so we can single file out our way through there. I think there is a certain amount of self-preservation skills that these racers need to have, as that's a huge sideways snap from Carmichael out of 8.
Looking tricky already for Les here, and Doherty's going to wind up back in front of him. Watch Andy McCune. Do we have our first victim of the Kleiner chicane? Oh no, he's slipped to the side. Thankfully, looks like he came to a halt early. So that's the good news. I thought for sure he'd wind up barreling into everybody else, but looks like he wasn't going too fast at the moment. Unfortunately, that sends him to 27th of the 27 cars. Meanwhile, this fight between 5th and 6th has definitely backed them up. They are already 3 seconds off, as we may have had an incident behind as we get a replay here.
Yeah, and Ben Whitehurst getting caught out in some stacking up as they head their way into turn number 5. You could see the spin right behind as they headed their way off through the braking zone, but Whitehurst already picked up some damage on the front end of that race car. Lisa Eskridge, meanwhile, ran into some difficulties in the number 75 car as she goes off the circuit. That's heading into turn number 1. Quick trip off into the gravel trap. Gotta keep an eye on those gravel traps all throughout this race, because there is a chance that about 5% of all the gravel traps around this circuit will get dragged onto the racetrack by the checkered flag.
We saw a lot of that last night too, yeah. So I think that's a good call on that one. David Sauntry having a big slide coming down through Sternenwacht, but gets it going once again. And Snyman does not have the same sort of luck. The rear starts to go around, and he winds up sideways. A little bit of a touch as another car spins in sympathy. Good avoidance. Whoa, whoever that first car was, but unfortunately, that second car, didn't see who that was. The 993 backed straight into him.
Unfortunately that I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, was Ben Whitehurst, the driver initially involved in the drama, heading down to turn number 5 chicane. Is Jack Stevenson having some moment. That was actually the car that Romero got the screenshot of getting all 4 up off the deck in practice earlier. Once again having some troubles heading off through turn number 5. That was Ben Whitehurst getting involved in that. I was wondering why he had picked up another, well, not another meatball flag, but he had picked up a meatball flag after he had already been involved in the incident down into turn number 5. That's exactly what happened. Clipped the car that was spun around. Nothing he could really do there, as a car spun off big time through turn 5. Gotta feel bad for the flag marshals as they head their way through that part of the racetrack. They'll be waving that yellow more often than not.
Yeah, and that was Andrew McCune, as we can see on the replay. Thankfully was able to get out of the way before the leaders started to come through, but already experiencing some problems. Let's not forget there is a hard incident limit at 25. Drivers will be disqualified. He's going to have to try and clean it up, because we've already seen multiple incidents. As there's a big look down the inside from Kaplan on Carmichael, and as he's slow off the corner, Carmichael has to give that one up, gives 2 positions up, maybe even 3 here. Excuse me, that was McCune. No, that was the lapped car that they were just going by. Pardon me.
Yeah, the drama already in this race, seeing some lap traffic involved, despite the fact that we don't even have 5 minutes on the board. It's going to be a tough one here. I talked about right at the start of the show how short of a racetrack this is, but I'm going to hold off on that point as Johan Nye and Todd Goldberg battling, and Nye goes off the track.
Wow. And I thought for sure that Goldberg would be the one that was shooting off far, because he was the attacking car. But Johan Nye just messing up the braking down into Erst has cost him not just the lead, but he's fallen to 4th. Trippett is now 2.5 seconds back, and having some real trouble getting going here is Johan Nye. So here's where the pass started. That's Goldberg round the outside, tried to steer in, braked, I think maybe not expecting that car to still be there, but Johan Nye goes sailing down into the...
Unfortunately for him, I think the brake pads in that car were made out of marshmallow fluff as he jammed on them, heading his way down into turn number 1. That's an easy mistake to make, to be sure. Turn 1 comes out of nowhere here at Zolder, but that's a huge mistake for your at 1 point race leader, dropping down to 5th. He now finds himself the Pied Piper of this Hornet's Nest, with John Kaplan, Verna Messer, and Anthony DiVincenzo a little bit farther behind. But Johan Nye, a huge mistake early, going to give a huge gap to Todd Goldberg, who's been able to inherit the race lead as a result of that drama.
Not only inherit it, but he's already up to 3.5 seconds now. So in 1 lap, he's distancing himself from Ed Trippett, what we can see there on the tower. But this is a battle a little bit farther behind that. I think we're watching DiVincenzo here in the purple machine. And quite a bit of a line. We saw a lot of these sort of trains forming up yesterday as well. Yes, indeed, that is the 420 as he goes a little bit wide coming off of Ix. And Doherty just about makes the pass, but it's not done yet. Vincenzo's going to defend the inside, but Thomas is deep onto the brakes again. Drivers miscalculating where to be into that turn, and this time it is Doherty who goes for a half spin.
As he nearly got followed off the track there. I believe that was Aubrey Iyer. That's a driver going off the track. That's Keith Markison, who dives off the circuit in the 076 car. Yeah, I was thinking that turn 5 was going to be the real source of trouble for these racers here, Joe. But it looks like turn 1 has been, as David Santry has had his own moment. That's not through 1. Instead, that's through turn number 2. That looked very bizarre. He must have either lost it very early on into the corner, potentially clipped the grass on turn in, or he had some assistance in that. That was a very bizarre incident. As we take a look at what happened with Marcus, and he actually made contact there.
Either contact or had some real avoidance maneuvers that he had to make to try and get into the car ahead. Andrew Hillman, by the way, given a black flag. He's already serving that right now. Santry actually has a black and orange flag, and so does Keith Markison. So that is required repairs is what is going on with those. If you're not familiar, the car is considered in unsafe condition, and they must come in within the next 3 or 4 laps to take those repairs before they are allowed to continue.
Yeah, so those meatball flags coming out already. Everybody learning the struggle at Zolder, and we're still in the early stages of this race, which I feel like is a bit of a double-edged sword for these competitors, because as much as they want to try and settle into a groove, get their tires up to temperature, this is probably going to be the best track conditions we have for the entirety of the race. Not only is the gravel going to be mostly off the circuit, we still already have a decent amount of it on the outer lines away from the racing line itself. We also have to worry about those track temperatures currently sitting at 19 degrees Celsius, that's 66 Fahrenheit, but with that sun dipping below that horizon, we will expect that to go down and down and down and down.
Markison and Santry serving their penalties. Switching over to Vernon Messer now. Currently up 1 from where he started, looks like, into 7th place. Worth noting, not that far in front of him here, Johan Nye only just had his first clean lap on lap 5. The way that we can know that is if the driver does not have a fastest lap set yet, that's because they haven't had a clean one out there. So he's already got at least 5 or 4 incidents that we do know of at this stage, and we will have to keep an eye on that, because I think that's going to affect this race with so many incidents that we are seeing out on track. But Kaplan just behind Nye, staying right on that spoiler, making sure that Nye can't make any more mistakes than he has already.
I know that was a brilliant point that they brought up, Joe, talking about the incident points and how these racers got to keep it clean. I'll ask you, because you've been on the call for all 3 of the Zolder races that we have had. I was only on for last week's club class race. But have we seen any drivers get whacked with a disqualification because of incident points? I think we did in the other club class race 1 week ago. I can't really remember too well, because I can't even remember what I had for dinner tonight, so my memory is not very good. But have we seen drivers in some of the other PCA divisions get bopped with those incident points and find themselves being disqualified from these races?
Yes, we have. It has been a factor in the other races, so that's why I'm fairly certain that we're going to see it here as well. And doing a pretty good job keeping Kaplan out of range at this stage. Messer, who we watched on board with briefly, is still back there. Oh, but he takes a big cut at the second apex in the Villeneuve chicane. That's certainly going to be some sort of slowdown, I would imagine. Drivers automatically given that by the sim, and I can confirm he's being told to give that time back. Let's see, as Jack Stevenson once again taking a whole bunch of curb and getting airborne before returning back to earth, and unfortunately unable to keep it from spinning around. Worth noting that paint scheme, the Petty on the side, is in reference to Richard Petty, who actually raced in the first season of IROC and used the Porsche, and hence that livery is in homage to Petty's car.
Look, I'm gonna have to test my knowledge about old IROC. There's actually a series that I cover on iRacing that's It's pretty much a revamped version of IROC, but with the Ferrari challenge cars. It's a fantastic idea, a wonderful series that sadly went the way of the Dodo Bird in 2006. But I'm trying to remember. It was at Riverside, the first race of IROC, if my memory serves me correctly. I'm trying to test my own racing trivia knowledge here right now.
I actually don't know what the first race was, so I can't confirm or deny on that one. But yeah, I have read up a little bit on that first season being in the Porsches and how unusual it was before they quickly switched over to some more native vehicles. In the meantime, Aubrey Ayer has come down pit lane, and I don't think this is to serve a penalty. This is a bit long for a regular stop and definitely too early for such. So not sure what's going on with Aubrey. Definitely not taking that spare car to get back out in that. Robert Galaze, in the meantime, sitting in 9th position. That is Thomas Doherty behind him. We've seen Doherty involved in a fair bit of action in these early stages. The Martini liveried car trying to chase down the polka dot machine of Robert and getting closer down into the hairpin, but not close enough.
Yes, as we continue to see this battling go on, I actually, as Doherty really getting close up as they head their way down to the braking zone, turn number 10. Someone closing up through there, it always sends me into a little bit of fight or flight because I just see a driver close up. I'm like, don't tell me we're going to see an incident. I've seen many coming together as they head their way in through the final chicane here at Zolder. Either drivers coming down pit lane, or at least trying to, as a slow car is right up in front of them, or just some misjudged maneuvers. What's strange, though, about Zolder is the turn 10 chicane configuration that we are running here tonight is the normal chicane. There's an alternate version, which is, I've only seen it be used once in a spec race or Ford race, and that was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, I've actually seen it a bunch because the vintage community loves to race them. Both the Lotus 49s and 79s have taken that quick chicane, and yeah, it requires quite a bit of bravery to get right. On board with Jack Stevenson here, and that's not for position because Stevenson's currently last on the field. And actually, I'm just showing he disconnected, so this must have been, oh, excuse me, that graphic that we saw was Stevenson in pit lane. He has disconnected. This is a different car that we're working out. This is Dave Jones versus Ken Eskridge, actually, for 11th position. So Ken in the 77, the trailing car between the two. But Ken's had a phenomenal start, 15 minutes in, Ron, and he is up 11 spots.
Yeah, what did we say right before we got this race up and rolling? How even for the racers starting a little bit farther behind, if they could just keep it clean, they would be able to scythe their way through the running order. Have we talked about Ken Eskridge running off the track yet in this race? I don't believe we have, so that could be very much so the reason why he's been able to cut his way through the field like a hot knife through butter. They look to get another spot done here soon as Dave Jones still holds on to P11. Black flag meanwhile for David Sauntry, so things going from bad to worse, even worse are still for him. As they take a look at a replay to see a moment for Jeffrey Block. That's as they head their way into turn number 8. Very easy to loop it through the turn, but he got the chrome horn.
Yeah, it seems there have been a couple drivers in these 2 weeks that have just taken a little bit too much speed into Boulder Bird and can't hold it together. Back to the battle for P11. Ken is so much closer this time. He's going to show his nose coming down to the braking of the Kleine chicane, but decides to back out of it, maybe setting up for the exit. It looks like a pretty good launch as we watch him climb the hill of Butte, and indeed, he is going to be able to sneak by Dave Jones with ease.
Yeah, so Ken Eskridge being able to jump up another spot now in P11 for the driver of the 77 car. Unfortunately for him, though, there is a pretty big gap between Eskridge and Doherty farther up the road. So unless he can really put his nose to the grindstone and try and close up that gap, he will be in for a pretty lonely race if he can pull away from Dave Jones and not reel in the car up in front. He's already been able to pull a comfortable gap, taking about 2 seconds already. So Ken Eskridge is really starting to fly in that race car as we look at the battling going on farther up the road involving Gallus and Doherty. This would give Ken Eskridge a shot to close up the gap if they go side by side like that to turn number 1 too many times.
Yeah, definitely some dicing into that corner. Takes a big look down into Sternenbach, but no dice once more. Doherty clearly wants up there. We know that he's slightly out of position. The good news is, like you mentioned, Ken Eskridge just massively far behind them at this stage, so he doesn't have to worry about losing too much time, other than just the time in his race, knowing he could be a little bit farther forward under braking. I think he knew that that one was not going to be happening into the first chicane this time. Maybe we'll try again a little bit later as Glaze continues to hold him back.
Yeah, so this battle for some of the final spots inside of the top 10 looks like it is cooled off for now, but may get hot as that's a lap car going off the track right in front of them. Oh, that is a bad rejoin. Thomas Doherty got caught out big time as a result.
Yeah, Aubrey Iyer getting very loose coming through the Villeneuve chicane. Thankfully, a great heads up from Doherty. That could have been a lot worse. But again, time bleeding away from this 59 car when it looks like it is relatively quick in comparison to those around it. Maybe an early pit stop might be in order. Didn't see too many drivers use that to great effect, at least in the early stages yesterday, as this is such a short track and traffic can be so costly around here. But that's a call that Doherty will have to make on his own, figure out what is the right way to go about this. Goldberg, in the meantime, 7.5 seconds ahead as our little picture-in-picture shows that, unfortunately, Doherty comes to more woe and ran into the side of Iyer.
Yeah, so those two being stuck together in the worst way. First, there was the incident of the Fiddly Villeneuve chicane. That could have ended in disaster there, but ends in disaster once again as Iyer going to try and get that car spun back around, bring some gravel onto the track. As a result, you could just see a big line of gravel following that car everywhere it goes. And now look at this. That's Doherty battling with Ken Eskridge. He looks for the move around the outside to turn number 5. Not going to be able to make it work through the Glen chicane, but Doherty, things were looking good for him. Now they're not.
I can tell you that foot does not taste great, as I've stuck it in my mouth because those 10 seconds have evaporated. And now Ken Eskridge does have a chance to try and fight with the top 10 car in front of him. And he looks aggressive. Look at how well he came off of that Villeneuve chicane. He is making sure he fills the mirrors of that 59.
And, you know, based off what I said a little bit earlier on in relationship to Ken Eskridge probably having a boring and calm race after that move that he put on Dave Jones, I will have to open mouth insert foot in a few moments time here. And if I do not get back on the microphone, that's probably because I've pulled every single muscle in my body and can no longer move as a result of me trying to do that.
Seen a lot of penalties already today handed out by the live stewards as well. A number of black flags being given out here. Clearly, it's not just the track boundaries you need to watch out for, but just keeping it clean away from the other cars so that you don't cause yourself more issues. As we check in on Vernon Messer now. This is in 7th position. It's within about a second of John Kaplan. Saw them fighting a little bit earlier, but clearly not close enough for anything to erupt, at least at this stage, unless we get a mistake out of the 526. Before they get too close, let's take a quick moment to mention our sponsor, Princess Cruises. That's because they're the 2025 PCA title sponsor. And as the official cruise vacation partner of Series 14, they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 17 elegant ships, sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA Concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. Nice little bowl, and suddenly, off the track goes another of our cars down through that same chicane. Once again, James Legault is going to have to return, dragging a lot more of that gravel once again and losing more positions as he gives the time back for that cut course.
Yeah, so once again, the braking zone's catching out these racers, and as we move farther along, visibility may become a factor too. This track does not have any lights. The only lights that you have, in fact, are the headlights, as hearing the beeps in pit lane and seeing a car trundle down it, that's Ken Eskridge behind the wheel of the number 77 car, making that decision to break away from the field and come down pit lane. Now, if I hearken my memory back to the club class race 1 week ago, Joe, we did see some rather off-the-wall and interesting interesting strategies from drivers up and down the field. I have a feeling we may get a case of deja vu here in the night.
Yeah, again, I'm not sure about this call. It's definitely within the pit window, but now he's going to be stuck amongst a lot of slower cars, and we've seen that overtaking can be a bit tough sometimes. Leon taking his spare car, as we saw that bodywork pop back into place. You are allowed one free car in this series, and essentially that is a car that is set up exactly as yours, and with the exact same fuel levels and mysteriously the same tires, and you get back out on track. Whoa! As looks like RaceSpotTV is going to meet with the tire barrier briefly at the first chicane.
Yeah, and turn 5 strikes again. This time it's for RaceSpotTV, and only a small little tap of the tire bundle, so the only thing that he really lost out in all of that is just a whole lot of time. As we take a look to see what happened, it wasn't even the second chicane that sends drivers airborne. It was that first part popped up the left-hand side of the race car, and the next thing you know, he is looped around. The weight transfer in these Porsche Cup cars can be a bit of a pain in the back end for these competitors, so I think that could have been what bit him there as he went over the curb, and just from there, there's only so much you could do trying to muscle these cars around this racetrack. There are heavy machines, and any sort of undulation that the car doesn't want to take, even though it is a sports car and they can run over the curbs a bit more than open wheelers, there's only so much you can do. If those tires are up a couple feet in the air, the rest of the car is going to say, I don't know what you want to do for me, and they just slam it straight to the wall.
They often will call it the pendulum effect. And I think Aubrey has another issue. Yeah, I'm not going to be surprised if we see some disqualifications just from the incident limit on this one. We've had a few cars that have been facing the wrong way numerous times already. And that's 2 incident points right there if you have a spin in the iRacing sim. Back to the 99 of Todd Goldberg. Now, it was up to nearly 9 seconds for a while. I wonder if some of the lap traffic is holding up Todd at this stage of the race, catching a few drivers here and there. But he is keeping quite a wide berth back to Ed Trippett, so even if he does lose some time, a lap here or a lap there, I don't think he's too panicked right now.
Yeah, at this point in time, I think he is running quite comfortable, holding on to a good gap, and this does feel like a fitting time to mention it, considering your race leader running from the Los Angeles region. Off the back of the discussion we had a little bit earlier on surrounding the first ever season of IROC, they actually held the first 3 races of that 4-round season at Riverside. They had that at the end of 1973 and then ran at Daytona at the start of 1974.
Sorry, Goldberg just went off at the second chicane. He'll return without incident. He hasn't hit anything, didn't spin. But again, he'll have to give some of that time back. Sorry to interrupt there.
Yeah, no, don't worry. It's before I got into this broadcasting stuff, I kind of made a name for myself talking about racing history. So it comes natural for me to just yap everybody's ears off about all that. As RaceSpotTV also having a moment through a chicane. That was through the turn 5 chicane, runs off the track, brings some more gravel onto the racetrack. But Mark Donohue proved to be the winner in the first race of that series. I believe he ended up winning the championship as well. Donohue, a driver who grew up not too far away from where I am in the city of Philadelphia, Haddon Township, New Jersey, where my mother worked for quite some time, funnily enough.
Oh, interesting connection on that one. There's another little check-in on the track conditions. Still at about 19 Celsius, it seems right now. So haven't really changed too much. And that is still 66 Fahrenheit. Double checking on my end as the sun continues to plunge just about at the halfway point in this race. Checking back in with Carmichael and Nye now. Nye is caught back up after a poor start to this race. He hasn't done a great job of climbing back up the order, but he's at least caught Les Carmichael in 4th. Down into the Kleine chicane. He's not going to be near enough, though they did have to go by some more lap traffic as well. Now, last night in the sport class, we saw a number of battles that were affected by that lap traffic. Opportunities offered, but also chances to run away from your rival. So keep an eye on those, Ron. I'm pretty sure that drivers if they've watched any of the previous 3 races, will be well aware that they can be make or break.
Yeah, I think make or break is really the entire sentiment across all 4 of the PCA series as we head off into the 6th round of the championship. We do have drop rounds in this series for 6 races. Come time for the season finale, though, at VIR, and we're going to get championship weeks up and rolling in just 1 week's time here on RaceSpotTV for Series 14 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. We don't have some drop rounds to worry about. The drivers cannot drop their final race. So come time for VIR next time out, everybody's going to have to put a bit more importance into that round. But there's a bit more that he can put on this race here at Zolder. It's been such a tough race all the past 2 weeks that if you can come out of this race with a good result, not only are you going to have a heck of a lot of momentum and be feeling good mentally come time for the season finale, you're also going to give yourself a whole big advantage when it comes to the championship point standings heading off into the final round.
Saw a bit of a look down into turn 2 from Nye that time. Still didn't quite work out. Oh, he's very good on the brakes, though. He gains a ton of time coming down to the Kleine chicane. Carmichael's got to watch out. Clearly, Johan's got that one a little bit figured out. If he's closer, he could beat him to the punch. He's very deep coming down into the 2nd chicane and nearly makes contact. More problems for Iyer this time. Contact with Lisa Eskridge, and that sends Iyer into the wall.
Yeah, unfortunately for Aubrey Iyer, it has been a frankly disastrous round here at Zolder. Would not be too shocked if that car picks up disqualification in the next few moments if more incidents will follow. But nonetheless, proving that this track is super, super tough. Even the veterans of this series who have been contending for a championship, contending for race wins in the PCA world for quite some time, have run into troubles throughout these past few weeks. Johan Nye, a driver who has some darn good results here in this season and showed the pace in qualifying, running into the trouble early, but now trying to run up into P4 with a dive on Les Carmichael into 1, and he's going to make it stick.
The braking just looks so much later in most of the corners. I'm not surprised that eventually Johan decided it was time to go for it. So Carmichael down to P5, but Kaplan is already there to try and pick up the pieces. Let's see if the 526 can demote him another spot, as it's getting very, very close here through Bianchi onto one of the potential passing zones into the Kleine chicane. It's difficult, but not impossible, but it doesn't look like it's happening here.
Yeah, no, turn 5 overtakes here at Zolder. You can do it in the same way that, technically speaking, spontaneous human combustion can go on. You won't be betting money on it happening, though, certainly not to yourself. So if you go for a move hang down to turn number 5, I will commend your bravery, but I will not be too shocked if you end up either in the wall, up in the air, or just most certainly off the track as a result.
Watching our leader down into the braking. No, excuse me, actually, it's a little bit behind. We're back with Carmichael and Kaplan once again. This is down towards the braking of the final chicane. Jackie Ix, neither of them choosing to try and pit this time by. In fact, we haven't seen drivers pit for quite a few laps. I think the most recent was 4 laps ago with Leon Snyman entering in at that time. So coming down into the first corner, does look like Kaplan is forcing Carmichael to have to watch those mirrors a little bit. Now they come up on traffic, and that could affect this fight.
And look at that train of cars, the marching ants with the flashlights tied to their back, running around this racetrack. Only a matter of time before some side-by-side racing goes on. That's Andy McCune. He had a moment heading off to the Villeneuve chicane. Not the first time we've seen him run into some difficulties here in this event. I feel like Zolder will be a round of this championship where drivers will be very happy to see the exit sign of this racetrack in their rearview mirror, and will keep their fingers crossed that they will not have to see the entrance of this racetrack for quite a long time. This track has been pretty tough for everybody, but some racers gotta be happy to see the other side of this place.
This can definitely be a divisive circuit, and I wouldn't be surprised if some come away not really loving it if this is their first time here. Patrick Aguirre looks like he has taken a pit lane, so that's our latest driver to go for a pit stop, as More cars have trouble, including Carmichael. He's gone too deep down into the corner. There he was at the bottom of your screen, and now in the background, finally returning to the track. Kaplan will get that 5th place, and Messer even has time to get by.
That battle really starting to flare up as Les Carmichael dropping down behind Anthony DiVincenzo as well. Let's take a look at this as they headed their way into turn number 8. He runs off the circuit. Big off-track mode for him. He's going to loop it around too, and that's Les Carmichael dropping down like a stone thrown into a pond. He's going to drop down to 8th as a result of all that, as Anthony DiVincenzo just got to pick off that spot, say thank you very much, I will take that with open arms, grabs that torch and starts to drive off into the sunset.
Well past that halfway point, Anthony and Carmichael, the new battle for the 912. But Anthony managed to get by just as Carmichael was recovering from that incident we just watched on the replay, of course. Down into the Kleine chicane. Not going to see anything with them being so far apart at this stage. That beautiful purple car disappearing into the dusk as we go behind the trees now, away from the sunshine, being able to reach these cars, and the headlights illuminating the way through the ever-growing darkness at this forested racetrack. Still waiting for the vast majority of the field to come and take their pit stop. I anticipate probably within the next 11 minutes or so, we will see most drivers having take their stops.
And certainly when we get all the field down in pit lane, the order that we have currently will most certainly be shaken up. I will say, however, one thing that has, I can say, caught me by surprise here in this race is the fact that despite the fact that we're running off into the night, the headlights are most certainly on these race cars. The track temperatures have pretty much remained the same ever since the drop of the green. Even the ambient temperatures remain the same too. 19C for both the air and the track temp. Air temps have been around 65 as the track temp's still at 66. I don't know about you, Joe, but that's a little bit surprising to me.
That's a quirk of the sim, actually. The lowest ambient temperature that iRacing will do is 66 Fahrenheit. And that's because they don't want the cars to have to race in extreme temperatures, because the simulation of the tires obviously kind of can do really quirky things when you start throwing some extreme high and low temperatures at them. I believe there's a maximum ceiling as well for that temperature, but I don't remember it off the top of my head. But if you ever wondered why you so often see these colder races sit at around 66, that is why, as we check in with Anthony. And she's done a good job keeping Carmichael behind. He's still got him at a full second back.
And just maintaining that gap, not really pushing himself into a mistake, and flashing my mind back to the race at Aragon 2 weeks ago here in this championship. Anthony DiVincenzo had a wild ride in that race and scythed his way through the field right in the final stint as the track dried there at Aragon 2 weeks ago. He came in for slick tires and worked out like a dream, was able to jump his way up from outside the top 10, had some difficulties in the early stages of that race, including a penalty, was able to finish on the podium when everything was said and done. So keep an eye on that 420 car. Maybe have a good result here today. So too is Ed Trippett running in second. But that was news to me, Joe. Thank you very much for that knowledge. I was unaware that iRacing has that low ceiling. I know it can get pretty hot. I think I've seen some track temperatures jump up to 130, which even made me sweat just commentating a race in an air-conditioned room.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a ceiling on the track temperature, but the air temperature, yeah, definitely has limits. The highest I've seen, I think, was about 140 140 Fahrenheit, and that was at a race at Barcelona here in the sim, and that was very, very slippery. Ed Trippett here that we're watching on screen, still our championship leader. I don't know if he's too worried about Goldberg being ahead, since Goldberg is only on his third race so far. He's not a problem in the championship hunt. It's Johan Nye that is chasing him in the points, and Johan still sits in fourth right now, about actually 10 seconds back from Ed. So Ed's sitting pretty, I think, at this stage.
Yeah, even if Ed Trippett can't walk away from this race with a victory, he's still gonna be feeling quite all right come time for the final race of the season at VIR. And even if he doesn't walk away from this season with the championship, he's put together a fantastic season. 2 wins already on the board, tied for the most with Todd Goldberg, although that tie will be broken if they remain in the same running order by the time the checkered flag falls in about 24 minutes time. But Ed Trippett has still put together a very composed drive in that 444 car, I should say, all season long. So even though he is running in second, he's still putting in a pretty darn good performance. I think Todd Goldberg in that number 99 machine, he has just found another gear compared to everybody else.
Now, this is a battle for position between Drankovic and Trippett, but that is Aubrey Iyer in between the pair of them at this stage. I think Aubrey trying not to influence this battle, but actually holding up Chris at least for a little while. Not too much. Surprisingly, Aubrey seems to be back up to the pace relatively well, but Chris is not going to want to wait too long behind that dark-colored car and want to keep up with Trippett because that is a battle for P2.
So at this point in time, I think there may be another thing kind of playing into this fight, at least with the other lapped car of Aubrey Iyer. I've seen many an incident for Iyer thus far in this race. I'm not sure if it's that driver's debut or not. I haven't seen that name before here in this series, but again, I do have the memory of a goldfish, so that may not be entirely accurate. But it's been a tough go of things here at Zolder for them. If they have any sort of mistake between now and the end, whether it be car contact, running wide off the track, or even a half spin, a iRacing mark of loss of control, we'll probably see that car drop out of this race with a disqualification, considering what the trend has been thus far. I gotta say, this race has cooled off somewhat in terms of the mistakes out there on the road. I say that right as we see a bunny hop there from Aubrey, as I don't want to jinx it, but these racers, I think, have found a groove. It's maybe not a comfortable one, but it is a groove nonetheless.
I'm knocking on the fake wood next to me right now. I'm kind of in the same boat as you, though.
I'll knock on the one on my desk.
Yeah. It does seem like it's cooled down a bit, like as you described it. Andy McCune is the one that we saw really jumping up into the air and did a good job of keeping that car from, wow, look at that, all 4 wheels off the ground. My goodness. Andy McCune turning this more into a bit of a skateboarding session right now. Meanwhile, back with Drankovic and Trippett. Looks like they have finally gotten past Iyer. And no, actually, Chris is not. Chris still sitting behind Iyer and is now 2 seconds behind Trippett. So this has not worked out well for that orange and blue machine. This might be a good time for Chris to try and pit in. But before he does, let's take another moment to talk about our sponsor, Princess Cruises. As the 2025 PCA title sponsor, they are the official cruise vacation partner of Series 14, and they provide exclusive offers, including world-leading itineraries across a fleet of 17 elegant ships sailing to more than 330 global destinations. Reach out to the PCA concierge team to book your next adventure today by calling 833-679-2188. So the battle for 12th position being led by Susportus, James Legault behind, and Ken Eskridge. Ken's actually up 9 spots, and he's already taken his pit stop, so this has worked out pretty well for Ken at this stage. He's going to inherit a bunch more once the other drivers around him also take their pit stops, but certainly seems to be maybe held up a little bit right now as Jonathan and James in front of them currently block the road.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't brought that up in reference to the pitch strategy that Eskridge and many of the other racers who have come in for early stops have decided to play here at Zolder. You gotta find that right window to exit out in. It's like whenever you're merging onto the highway, you gotta find that small little gap in the traffic to slip your car into, and then you're gonna be doing all right. If you can't find that window, you're going to be in for a world of hurt. As Johan Nye in for a world of hurt, he's dropping down. Something's going on once again for the driver of the 141 car as he's now fallen to 6th.
Oh man, it has not been a good day after it looked so promising with a pole position for Nye. and I didn't see what happened. It looks like he is currently lapping a car, so hopefully we'll get a little bit of an update there, or replay in a second. Ooh, big slide there from the 765. So Sportus is hustling the car, and that's helped him get away from Legault. But Legault is a little bit off the track there in the background. That's going to allow Ken Eskridge to finally get through, make the pass before they even get to the hairpin.
Yeah, so pretty convincing maneuver there for spots. These racers, even though we're getting into the end, they are running at the edge of control. That's Johan Nye and his spin. Oh, I think he may have clipped that curb on the inside, the final part of that, and just sent him around. That's a costly mistake for Nye. I was wondering whether or not he was running out there on the racetrack by himself at the time. He was, and that is a simple mistake to make, but a costly one to be sure. Johan Nye doesn't usually make mistakes, but here in this race he's made two, and they have been pretty costly.
They really have been. It's already sent him outside of the top 5 in this race. Still needs to give us a pit stop too. Maybe that could, I don't know, clear the air a little bit. Problems for Hillman, who also gets it back and rolling. That looks like maybe the exit of turn 2, potentially, before he gets it back underway. It takes some time though, until the car actually gets up to speed. Here's Todd Goldberg. It's down into the Kleine chicane. More traffic in front of him. He's lapped everybody up to 14th at this stage. James Legault, the next one in front that he needs to get by. We do have a few takers in pit lane. Les Carmichael looks like he has decided it's a good time to take to the pits. As, unfortunately, yeah, I was going to say that angle is not really showing us the driver of interest. Oh, and behind, Dave Jones also executing.
Yeah, so Dave Jones going to shadow the call that his at one point race rival of Ken Eskridge did very early on. Eskridge going to blow his doors off as he's obviously going to stay out there on the racetrack. Is currently slotted in P12. I think Jonathan Sasportas is going to come down pit lane now. Yes, he has. As one good thing about the bizarre pit entry here at Zolder, you can tell who's coming into the pit lane just by how they shuffle. They overtake some cars and then they lose out on both at a time. As the sport is coming down pit lane, Dave Jones, 13.4 seconds stopped in the pit stall for him. He's down away as Ed tripping into the pits.
That's P2. More and more of our top runners are deciding it's time to pit in. No wonder, as we're pretty close to the end of that pit window. So we should see maybe in the next 2 or 3 laps, the last of the drivers slowly trickle in, take fuel, get back out, and wrap this race up. Still no sign of Goldberg, though, coming down in, as Ed Trippett has to go all the way to the second to last pit stall before finally coming to a halt. So we'll put him behind a few cars, but since most have pitted, I think he shouldn't have too much issue with traffic. You mentioned Ken Eskridge. Yeah, he came out 2 spots ahead of Dave Jones, so that worked out quite well for Ken. He's already up to 11th, while Ed gets back on track after a good 14-second stop. Oh, but there is a lot of traffic actually around him. Unfortunately, that didn't quite work out. He does return in 7th, though.
Yeah, so I don't think it's worked out too fantastically for Ed Trippett in terms of where he finds himself on the road. Big hornet's nest of race cars right in front of him. Got one car right behind that will be applying some pressure as he tries to get back into a groove, as that's contact right in front. I think James Legault involved in all that as Ed Trippett got trying to find a way to get past it to turn number 5. Thought that was going to end in tears, but thankfully they all keep it clean as Todd Goldberg comes down pit lane from your race lead in the 99.
And these are all cars that have pitted. Oh, he's going to have to take to the escape there at the second apex, so now he's going to have to give some time back after he just went by Keith Markison. So things kind of unraveling a little bit for Ed Trippett. Remember, he did have Chris Drankovic just a couple seconds behind him. He's got to be careful that he does not get jumped in the pit stops because Chris is actually in now. So is Todd Goldberg. Johan Nye stays out on track.
Yeah, I think Nye at this point is trying to find any way in the book to shuffle his way back up towards the front. I mean, hey, an odd strategy call worked for the man that we were following a few moments ago of Anthony DiVincenzo. Bolted on the slicks right towards the end of the race at Aragon and jumped his way up into the podium. He's running in P2 at the moment in front of this man, Todd Goldberg, who is still your net race leader. Still waiting for the pit stop to go on, but he's slotted in third, has exited out pretty clear of just about everybody. Has a lap car right in tow, but probably not going to shake him out too much. That number 99 car has been on rails throughout this race.
Oh, bad news for fans of Trippett. He came out behind Drankovic, but they're actually side by side right now coming into Bianchi. That is hard to go wheel to wheel through that corner, but they do manage it. Does not give a spot to the 444. Chris, is he going to defend coming down into the Kleiner chicane? The answer is no, but he doesn't need to, as he will remain in what is right now fourth spot, but effectively will be second once we get DiVincenzo and Nye to pit.
Yeah, so things have gone a little bit sour for Trippett, I should say. As things have gone well for Drankovic to be able to jump into that net P2 position. This battle is still far from over there. This race is still far from over, even though the 12.5 minutes nearly that we have left on the clock is a pretty far cry from the 60 minutes that we started off with. Lots of things can go on in the final 12.5 minutes of a Porsche Club race, doubly so around a track like Zolder, where we have seen all throughout tonight and all throughout the past 2 weeks. This track can kick you on your hind end in the blink of an eye. So even though these racers are feeling comfortable and confident, they can never fully let their guard down.
Requires so much focus. That is our leader once again, Goldberg. Back to the front now that Nye and DiVincenzo did pit this last time by. There you can see them taking their fuel. Should be back out on track. Drankovic and Trippett return to second and third. Where does Nye come out? DiVincenzo behind him looks like he is going to wind up somewhere around 7th or 8th. Nye is going to wind up in 5th, but just barely emerging almost by Whitehurst. This is a battle for P2 once again. Chris versus Ed, with Ed on the back foot, watching as they approach the lapped car. Will he be able to use this run to his advantage?
That is a good question that you bring up there, Joe. I think if you play the lap traffic game right here at Zolder, it can work out fantastically for you. This track is old school. It's narrow. Not a lot of spots to really get a move done smoothly. So sometimes you got to apply the pressure, force an issue. And there you can see Drankovic follows through to overtake that lap car. But Ed Trippett got to be right behind. So those two go tit for tat with that overtake right towards the top end of the racetrack. And now it is a chase down. A just straight up chase down between these racers. I think they've got themselves a big window of opportunity. Looking farther up the road, you cannot see another car in sight from the camera angles that we've got. So I think Drankovic and Ed Trippett only have to worry about one car, and that is each other.
Yeah, with Kaplan so far back, it's pretty much a straight fight, barring, of course, the traffic that they've been running into pretty frequently here. We're now down to only 13 cars left on the lead lap, but it has felt like almost a conveyor belt of traffic since early in this race. Checking back in with Kaplan and Nye. Looks like Kaplan is, wow, he's well clear. It's almost 4 seconds back to Johan Nye. But Johan is in 5th at least, and not 6th place. So he's made a couple of the spots back that he lost after he had that incident that we saw in the final chicane, but still some disappointment, I think, in his mouth after the way this race has gone. Back to the battle for P2. Drankovic ahead of Trippett, and by no means safe. In fact, if he makes a mistake like that, that will definitely cost him positions. Now he has to hand the time back here, but he could do it in a sneaky way. Look at the gap that he does have over Trippett. And he hasn't completely done so quite yet. I'm watching on my screen to see when that penalty clears, and it did. So yes, he cut the course, but he managed it perfectly. Trippett not able to pick it up.
Yeah, serving the slowdown absolutely brilliantly for Chris Wankovitz. That is what's surprising to see. That is the mark of a true professional in iRacing, knowing, okay, here's what I can do to do that. That's Aubrey Iyer with another spin. That's heading off through the final chicane. It's been a rough go of things for the San Diego region driver. They're going to look to try and see the end of this race and make sure they can keep it on the road and not pick up a disqualification. I gotta say, I don't think we've seen the DQ up to this point here tonight. Maybe I missed out on something. I think we've gone disqualification free. Knowing Malik, I probably just jinxed it though. We're gonna see a whole just swarm of cars pick up a DQ here in the next few moments.
So I guess it's a bit of a good news, bad news situation for Johan Nye. He won't finish in second place as it looks like this time by, but that second place won't be a first. It will be lower. So not exactly the way he wanted to break that trend. Ed Trippett, who has taken 2 wins out of the last 3 races, certainly doesn't look like he's going to be anywhere close to trying to do that today. 18 seconds between Ed, Chris, and Todd Goldberg up at the front. They have just really fallen off of what has been an amazing race out of the 99 with the pace that he's been able to display today.
Yeah, Todd Goldberg proving that sometimes I do, in fact, know wheel. When I talked about him doing well in the even races and starting this race in third, how he would be one to keep an eye out for. He just has really proven himself to be a strong contender. Think of the 2 drivers in front of him, though. Johan Nye and Ed Trippett haven't had a smooth race in their own regard. Nye has had some very costly mistakes throughout that first gave the race lead to Todd Goldberg and then dropped him outside of the top 5. He's now back up into P5, but it would have been a heck of a lot more for him. And even for your championship leader, multi-time race winner in the form of Ed Trippett, it hasn't been a fully smooth night for him either. He's still on track for a podium and has a good shot to jump back into second over Chris Wankovitz, but it's not been a perfectly conducted night for Trippett either. So Todd Goldberg just proving that to finish first here at Zolder, first you have to finish.
Keep it on the track, keep away the mistakes. Hasn't been completely perfect. We've seen him off, but yeah, it's certainly been fewer than what everybody else seems to have fallen to. Trippett continues to just stay in the mirror of Drankovic. Chris actually up 2 from where he started, not too shabby. Going from the outside of that second row to potentially a podium finish here today. But I tell you who has been having a really good one. We've mentioned him before in terms of hard charger. Ken Eskridge. He's now up 14 spots and into the top 10. He's the driver that made good on what we teased at the start of this broadcast, that you can definitely manage to make some passes. You can get some good positions if you just keep it together. There was a little bobble there on the top of the screen from Drankovic. Not sure that it's going to be enough for Trippett to be able to capitalize on it, as the battle for fourth is now between Kaplan and Nye. Johan has cut this down. It was 3 seconds just a couple laps ago. And I don't know if this was traffic or mistakes, but doesn't matter which it is. It now has put Johan Nye in a good spot, and wide goes Kaplan. Johan Nye does get his 4th place.
Yeah, so now I got to jump up to P4 as the DQ has now gone down for Aubrey Iyer, a little bit farther behind. A recent incident put them over the limit. That's going to be the first disqualification that we've had tonight. We still have 5 minutes left to go here in this race, but Johan Nye positioning himself exactly where he needed to do to jump into that spot, as Drankovic and Ed Trippett maybe got to start to battle here soon. The tension has started to build in this battle for the final 2 spots on the podium. Drankovic trying to hold on to that for dear life, as that looked like a bit of a cut there. If he picked up a slowdown, this could very well be P2 for Trippett.
Checking his seed. Nope, doesn't look like he got a cut course on that one, so he was within the boundaries. And he's got more traffic, is very close down into the braking of the hairpin. Trippett nearly makes contact with his rear bumper. That car in front is Susportus in the 16th spot, so he's not going to want to involve himself in this fight. But does he pull off to the side here on the main street? He's got a good opportunity to. They do have a new rule since last season that you have to give way once you get those blue flags and get within a second of that car behind. He lets one through, but he has not found a chance to let Trippett through. That separates P2 and P3.
Yeah, so that may be a breakaway that'll allow Chris Drankovic to break away from that battle and drive off into the checkered flag P2 here in this race. As we see this battle cool off, though, I do want to elaborate on a point that he brought up a few moments ago, Joe, talking about the overtaking opportunities here at Zolder and how they can be a little bit difficult. Kind of saw that get put on full display with that lap traffic encounter that did hold up Ed Trippett a little bit. Really nothing that you can do as you head your way off into turn number 1. This track is very narrow. It is old school, and if you completely sacrifice your race, then you're going to be the one picking up an instant point trying to get out of harm's way. There's only so much you can do around this racetrack. If you're a lap car getting overtaken, or if you're a driver just trying to get an overtake done yourself, got to take a look to see this moment for Chris Schussler as he whacks a curb off through the Villeneuve chicane. That's going to send him around to that number 61 machine. I think the best way that I can describe overtaking opportunities here at Zolder, it's like trying to pan for gold. You break out an old gold pan, you want to try and do what they did in the West, as they called it many moons ago, and try and get some gold in some water. You're going to go to a natural stream to do that. You're not going to go to the lazy river at a amusement park to try and pan for gold.
Yeah, that would be difficult as we now watch Chris start to run away a little bit, up to 1.5 seconds with 2.5 minutes left to go. So is Goldberg going to get the white flag next time? I don't know that he will, because he is so far ahead of these two. He might still get there with more than 1:33 left, which is about what they've been running so far in this race. Of course, lap traffic can sometimes affect that. There is our leader, and there we go, our map up at the bottom to show you where he is, with about a third of the lap left to go here for Todd Goldberg. This will be tight on whether he can get back in time. He's got about 20 seconds, less than 20 seconds now.
Yeah, so this is going to be borderline, and when we think about these borderline finishes, do have to raise the potential worries about fuel saving for some racers a little bit farther behind. They usually run into at least some margin, but some racers can cut a little bit tight. If this is a white flag, it's going to be music to everybody's ears. If not, we may have to worry about some fuel saving and some drivers running out of gas.
And I believe it should be white flag. I think he crossed with less than 1:33 to go. It's a little tight, but it should be the last circulation around Kaplan and Nye. Oh, Nye has lost it once again. Not sure what happened, but John managing to ease through just before they got to the last chicane, and now they've got one more lap to decide it.
Yeah, now look at this battle. This is going to be intense. I wonder what we're going to see from Nye. Maybe a move of desperation. It's been a deeply frustrating race for the driver of the 141 car. So if he can close up that gap to himself and John Kaplan, would he go for a dive? Would he go for a ascent, or is he going to say, you know what, I'm going to be slotted in P5, still getting some okay points? Of all the ways a race could go where I've had two catastrophic mistakes, this is honestly not too bad. I think this battle between Les Carmichael and Ken Eskridge may get hot, though, as they're covered by nearly a 10.5 at the 2.
And that's for 8th place between the pair of them. They've got that full lap left to go here through the darkness, but pretty soon up in front of them will be done already with this race. That tells you what kind of lead Todd Goldberg has when 8th place is just starting the lap, and Goldberg is coming to the final chicane. There he is as he comes around to the line. It is going to be another win for Todd Goldberg after he is 3 for 3 in each race that he has shown up for. Drankovic behind him has pulled away from Ed Trippett. It's been a great race from the 009, denying Trippett a P2, but he still finishes ahead of his rival, at least, and will extend his gap coming into the last round.
Game of dominance continues for Todd Goldberg. Every single time he shows up, he is batting 1,000 from this season. If that is to go by and he doesn't race next week at VIR because it is an odd race, I mean, that would be a fantastic way to go about it. It's like, hey, I didn't win a championship, but every single time I did show up, only 3 times in a 7-round championship, I won every single time. It's like, okay, what's good? Winning a championship or going out trophy hunting? I would say both are equally fun.
Okay, we've got a development. I just noticed that Johan Nye is showing in 11th. Now, the only thing I can think that could have happened here is if he had a cut course penalty that he didn't fully serve. It may have been at that last chicane, because that will add a time penalty post-race. This is horrible news for him. His championship hopes might be just about dashed. At this point, he will need Ed Trippett to have an awful final race to have a hope of taking the title away from him. But here, okay, so here's what happened coming into that last chicane. Is he going to cut the corner? No, he had a spin. Oh, that's what happened. He couldn't get it going in time, and too many cars snuck by. I wouldn't have thought that many had been able to catch him. It didn't look like that big of an incident. Or no, that wasn't the final
he went
chicane.
off the track again.
Oh, excuse me. I was mistaken. That's the Kleiner chicane. Oh! Oh, no.
Oh, and Les Carmichael involved in that in the 912. Oh, it was so much worse than unserved slowdown. It was a collision as they headed their way out of 5. It looked like he was getting back up and rolling without too much time lost, and then he looped it again with some dirty tires, and that contact made after that, look at that car. It is absolutely junked. That's part of the reason why I finished outside the top 10. Huge damage on that race car. I think, did he tow back to pit lane? He did.
He did.
So Johan Nye didn't even see the checkered flag out there on the road.
That's why he fell to 11th, as he's going to be the last car on the lead lap, sadly. Oh, there is a lot to unpackage, but before we do that, we're going to go through our results for today. Todd Goldberg, domination up at the front, with Chris Strankovic getting an excellent second place. Ed Trippett, maybe not what he quite wanted, but he still gets the necessary points to be leading this championship with a 3rd place. John Kaplan was 4th in his awesome battle with Nye, as behind him, Vernon Messer will wind up in 5th. Anthony DiVincenzo, he'll be P6, Les Carmichael in 7th, and Thomas Doherty in 8th. Robert Galaise will get a 9th place, with Dave Jones rounding out your top 10. Johan Nye, he may have gotten the fastest lap today, but that wasn't good enough for a decent finish. He was 11th, a lap down, as Ken Eskridge still managed to finish 12th, gaining the most positions of anybody at 11 gains. It was Leon Snyman in 13th, Patrick Aguirre in 14th, and Jeffrey Block in P15. Then Jonathan Sesportis was 16th, followed by Keith Markison 17th, and Adam Holland 18th. Lisa Eskridge will take 19th as James Legault rounds out your top 20. From there, Andrew Hillman was the last one, a single lap down. It was 3 laps for Ben Whitehurst. Ken Schuessler also 3 laps down to 23rd. Andy McCune in 24th. And David Santry in 25th, with Aubrey Ayer and Jack Stevenson being our only DNFs in today's race. Looks like we've got Todd ready to chat with us. Let's have a little bit of a talk and see, as we take one more look at the replay now of what happened with Ken Eskridge as well. So he could have had those 14 positions gained, I think, at the end, but he was involved with that incident. No, we do have Todd Goldberg with us in the booth here. Todd, 3 for 3 on the wins. You got a pretty impressive strike rate.
Yeah, this is probably the toughest one yet, even though it was pretty far ahead. Those chicanes are no joke, and it was not without issue. I definitely had a few offs or cutting the track that I had to circumvent, but all in all, nothing too crazy, and was able to kind of pull through, which felt good.
Yeah, I mean, that was impressive, considering that we did see a couple of those offs. But also, I'm curious about your qualifying. In practice, you looked a whole lot quicker, and in the race, obviously, as well, too. But you only qualified 3rd. What went down there?
Yeah, I think I didn't practice well with the sunset and the transition to nighttime. So I think when I got into qualifying, it threw me off, and I missed some of my marks. I think the second qualifying lap I went off, and then 3rd, it was just about putting in a good time to hopefully get within top 3 or so.
You still made up for it plenty there with that charge up to the front, and a win by, gosh, 20 and a half seconds certainly shows some dominance. But will that dominance show back up when we come back for the last round at VIR? You've kind of been off and on. Is the schedule going to allow a return?
Unfortunately, this is my last race of the season. So 3 for 3, and we'll probably end there. And hopefully, coming out of the season, we'll be able to bump up to the next class, which I'm looking forward to.
We look forward to it as well. A very mic drop moment to get a 100% record of wins in the season. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much. And would just like to say thanks to my coach, Aaron Nash, who's been helping me kind of practice for all these races. So thanks, guys, for everything you do around the broadcast, and really had fun this season.
That was Todd Goldberg. Victor here today at Zolder, and it looks like Chris Drankovich ready to have a chat with Ron Mons about his P2.
And Chris Drankovich now joining us here on the broadcast booth. Chris, welcome in. It's a P2 for you here at the end of this race at Zolder. Happy to talk us through how that race went for you here tonight.
Well, thanks for having me. I am shocked thoroughly, and it was a lot of fun, very stressful. I'm sweating right now, but yeah, it was stressful and a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can imagine that was a very tough race in the cockpit. We saw many mistakes throughout both this race and really all of the races in the PCA world here at Zolder. So I want to ask you about how tough it was trying to run around this circuit.
Well, in particular, I wasn't aware that it was going to be dark, nor did I have any practice time in the dark. So that was an extra special twist sort of in the middle of the race. I surprised myself, I guess, in my qualifying time. Did not expect to be passing other people, so that, dealing with lap traffic was difficult. But I just tried to stay focused and sort of run my race, and sort of knew early on we weren't going to catch Todd. Edward and I were sort of neck and neck for quite a bit there, so I was trying to follow him, and then the pit stop, I guess, made all the difference.
Yeah, the strategy certainly playing a big factor in this race. That's got to be a bit of a shock, though, thinking, oh, yeah, there's just going to be a regular race running in the daytime, and then it turns out to be a night race. It's like a surprise birthday party, but it's not a birthday party. Instead, you just return to your house, and there's an angry clown with a running chainsaw in his hand. So that's, I can imagine that was a bit of a spook as you headed off into this round of the championship. But only one more race left to go in 2 weeks' time when the series rocks up to VIR. What are your thoughts heading there?
Well, hopefully I can keep up. I've driven that track in real life, so I'm excited to do it in the sim, and yeah, looking forward to it.
There you go, man. Already got some seat time there, so we'll keep an eye out for you for the next round of the championship at VIR. Chris, thank you for joining us in the booth, and congratulations on P2.
Thanks so much. You guys do an amazing job at the announcing, so I really appreciate you guys being here, and thanks to the sponsors for helping to put this on.
Oh, and thank you very much for the kind words, man. We appreciate it. We love doing these shows, and hopefully you drivers enjoy watching them.
So that
right there was Chris Drankovich.
Sorry about that. So we've got one more, Ed Trippett, who finished in third today. I'm very curious about his emotions on this one, because Ed, this has got to be kind of mixed feelings, I imagine. You didn't take the win, you slipped down one spot and settled for third, but at the same time, your main rival had a way worse day, so you go into the final round leading the points.
I am, but I really feel bad. Johan getting on the pole, it was really cool to see him up there. I thought I had pole, and then last second I hear you don't get pole. So it was great to see him up there, and I thought he had a great chance. I mean, he was leading the race substantially, and I just wanted to kind of stay close with him, but to see that happen, and then I wasn't sure where he'd finish, but I just knew if I could just stay ahead of him, it's all I really needed to do. So that was my focus for the race. But little drama there as the last third, as I was, as Chris was coming out of the pit. I wasn't sure if I wanted to really fight that fight. I had more at stake, so I kind of just dialed it back and decided just to bring it on home.
That answers the other thing that I was curious about. Were you surprised, though, coming out of pit lane that you were suddenly in a fight with him, or did you expect that?
I think I got caught up in a little traffic, and maybe in my out lap and one or two other spots. I knew he was gonna be close. I tend to put a little extra fuel in the tank, just to be on the safe side. So I think I got burned by that as well. But I kind of knew if I could just be on the podium, and I thought there would be a good chance either way, I'd be in a good place. So no surprise, I guess. And again, when he came out, thought about fighting him a little bit about, fighting him with for that position. And it was fun, try to chase him down, but catching him is one thing, getting past is a whole nother thing.
Especially at a track like this. But the next track obviously needs to be your focus. How do you consider your skills at VIR? Do you feel pretty confident going in?
This whole season's been good for me. This car I like a lot. VIR is a track where I would say it's medium for me. It's not, again, not Laguna Seca is for me just a nightmare. So I think I'll be okay. Again, I just got to finish on the podium, I think, and I'd be in a good place. So that's what we're going to try to do.
Well, best of luck. Congratulations on a podium, and hopefully we'll get to chat with you in a couple weeks' time.
Thank you. I'd like to make a big call out to Doug and the team for everything they do. Princess Cruises for the great sponsorship, the great job that you guys do. I'm going to be watching the video after this, so looking forward to that. All my friends that are watching, Victor and Josh and Sally and Kimmy and Blake and Danielle and little Harrison. And of course, Mary, she's watching as well. But thanks again for what you guys do, and we'll keep it going.
Well, thank you, Ed. That was our third place finisher here today. And that is going to wrap us up for Zolder, the last race of the 2 weeks here over in Belgium, which means in 2 more weeks' time, we're going to be heading off to VIR. We've got a little bit of a break for Thanksgiving week over here in the United States. So we won't see you for any racing over the next week, but we will be back for December 11th here for the very last race of the season for the challenge class as well. We will be returning on Wednesday, December 3rd for the pro class, so make sure and tune in for that. And a big thank you goes to the steering committee before we head off, as PCA Sim Racing has done a lot to help get this off the ground. Also, thanks to our team, Ramiro and Ron. And thank you for watching. I'm Joe Peak. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.